I just kept hearing, you're gonna die, you're gonna die, you're gonna die. I was diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome. For short, it's PCOS. And I was also diagnosed with diabetes. Well, it started about 7 years ago, and it was after one of the most exciting times after accepting my call. After giving my life to the Lord as well. So this is the third most funnest thing that's ever happened, which was getting married to my husband, Christopher King. And it's that one of the happiest times in my life.
We got married and we put on what I call a little love weight, which it's normal for some. But we were excited about being married. We were excited about life. And we started to gain a little weight.
You guys must be in love, you're putting on weight, and that wasn't cute after about a year. And it just, because from 2009 until 2011, it seemed like I gained about 100 maybe 20 pounds. And that's not normal.
It started more so with aches. It started with the chronic pain, whether it was in her back or whether it was in her knees or whether it was in her ankle or her feet. Charley horses and, muscle spasms, and it's like, what's wrong? Maybe you're not getting enough, sodium in your diet. Maybe you're not drinking enough water. We went through the natural process of elimination on what we could be, because it's like, there's no way you can go from having a pretty good bill of health to just being completely terrible in a matter of a year.
I started to feel and, things going on in my body. My appetite literally stopped. I've never been a big eater anyway, but my appetite changed where I didn't have a desire for food anymore. And it was kind of impossible for me to think that maybe I could have anorexia or something, because I was what you call a big girl, I was pretty proud about being a big girl. I don't think anything's wrong with being a big girl as long as you're healthy. But I started to get in a place where I wasn't healthy.
Her health wasn't what drove us to the doctor. In the beginning, like I said, there was a process of gaining some weight. There were even some issues in her body that she was aware of, but she was confident, so was I, that there wasn't nothing that we couldn't do naturally to fix that. Whether it was exercising or changing our diet, we was willing to do whatever it takes to do that and to actively be combating that. What really drove us to the doctor was when, we had went a couple of years and wasn't able to conceive.
Why aren't we getting pregnant? And I realized that there was something really wrong. I started to feel and, things going on in my body. My appetite literally stopped. I've never been a big eater anyway, but my appetite changed where I didn't have a desire for food anymore. I began to have just different moments. Or driving down the street, it always seemed like when we were turning a corner, we would be near a cemetery, and I would just see visions of, my husband, being a widower, or feeling like I was hearing voices saying, you're gonna die, you're gonna die. Along with my health, I kind of hid it and tried to, rebuke the enemy, just fearful and just thinking about my life and ministry. At the same time, a lot of things were picking up concerning media, and it's just something that I struggle with, but I just kept hearing, you're gonna die, you're gonna die, you're gonna die. The doctors diagnosed me with polycystic ovarian syndrome, and that's short for PCOS. I was also diagnosed with anovulation, which meant that my body didn't ovulate regularly. I was also diagnosed with pitting edema, which was the fluid buildup in my legs, which is very, very painful. They were afraid that I had endometrial cancer because on my ovaries they saw two masses that were kind of large. So I had to, regurgitate that and just sit. I just remember sitting there thinking, oh my God, I also was diagnosed with diabetes. So quickly they started putting me on meds. My blood pressure was ridiculously high. Also, the first doctor I had was very concerned because of my blood pressure and because of the kind of work I did, because I'm also a pastor, and the radio station started to really kick off, and Flight of Promise TV, and I was working a lot. She was very, very, very concerned because she saw signs of me even being, with the dehydration, that my body was in kind of like a death mode, and I was blocking insulin. My body was blocking insulin, and that's where the weight just kept coming on, because my body thought I was dying, and my body went into a starvation mode and started to store everything. I started pushing really hard in ministry and pushing really hard in, things with the church and at the station, because I really honestly thought, well, I'm not gonna live. And so I worked really, really hard, and people couldn't tell that I was hurting. But I kept thinking, I gotta push, and I gotta make sure that people are in place. So when I die, everything can go forward.
It was really hard to tell her condition, because she really worked, she pressed. And so she could say, oh, I'm hurting, but you wouldn't really know that she was hurting because she would be, pressing through everything. So
we noticed that she wasn't losing weight, or she would actually gain weight sometimes, and it was kind of discouraging. And she would really hide it well, or she wouldn't show it. But I don't know, I just remember one time I just started looking at her eyes. She was like, I didn't lose anything, or it was just kind of that moment.
From the family aspect, from being away and not being here, all we really saw was that she was putting on weight.
I remember my older sister called me. She kind of had a heart issue with me because, I've always been a large girl, but just active and healthy. And she, was like, I'm really concerned. And I really was kind of had an issue with you because I'm wondering, why are you letting yourself go? Waking up at 4 a.m, trying to run miles with going from, literally gaining about 150 pounds, and it went up to 200 something. So I had got all the way up to 378 pounds. And I'm trying to run and jog, 2 miles with that kind of weight was putting I was getting injured, So constantly going to the doctor, please help me. They kept putting me on diet pills, which is not good, because they thought that the diet pills would help jumpstart my metabolism. It only ended up in me gaining more weight. So the doctor really, tears in his eyes, said, I can't help you. Once he sent me to a heart doctor, I was like, I really began to pray and say, Lord, you got to help me. I just cried out for healing, at that point. As the Force Radio was starting and getting ready to flourish, my church was going through a process, what seemed like similar to what I was going through in my body. So we had been in a building for about 7 years, and we were hearing God say it's time to go to a new place. And we were afraid, and ended up, losing the building we had. We had to have church, outside for a while. And, everyone was processing. A lot of my leaders were going through things. At the same time, I was going through something physically, and it just was everywhere I was turning. It was like I was seeing what was happening inside of me happening on the outside of me.
Being a part of the church, you started to see the condition of her body, which was in a position where it was stuck, and she needed something to happen that would, jumpstart something new in her body to get back in line, get back in place.
It was an amazing experience and parallel situation, because God was able to use what my wife was going through in her body for us as a church to realize where our shortcomings and the things that were ailing us from being able to maximize our potential in Him.
With them being in a lowly place and willing to be humbled by God, he was able to move his Jireh. Now let's see what some other members think about their new building.
Going into the new place, it's really awesome. I really appreciate her for fighting through everything that she has, through what she's fought through. And I appreciate her coming to redeem me from California.
Moving into the new building, I'm actually really excited. I'm excited about the different deliverances that's gonna come forth, the new people, the new areas of growth, God getting ready to transfer this church into.
I'm just juiced with what God is doing and what God is taking us to a new level, walking to this new place, into this new territory.
I don't even really have the words to describe what it feels like. All I can say is God is so powerful, and I love Him so much for what He's doing.
This is a wonderful opportunity to serve, and I know that it's going to be some different turns and different things that's going to be needed, and I'm still excited.
I feel thorns where my crown was. I'll be weak, but I'm alive from the dust until dawn. Yeah, I'll survive, 'cause I got sweet victory. Nobody can take it from me. Sweet victory, 'cause I got sweet victory. Yeah. Toast to the king, cheers to the city. Feeling good, we gon' make it to the finish. Yes, sweet victory.
After praying, I just kept hearing the Lord say, and I kept hearing the word Alvarez. I ended up looking up the name. I know that's a Spanish name, but I ended up looking up the name, and the first thing popped up was this well-known doctor that had been trained, in Europe and had done all these conferences. And it was a bariatric doctor. And I know each doctor that I had spoken with, they kept saying, this is the only option for you. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. There's got to be another way.
One morning my wife was praying about, was this the right decision to make? And as she was praying and sitting on the back porch, a cardinal flew by. And just the brightest, reddest cardinal you could ever see. And in doing some minor research behind that, I realized that cardinal, or the redness of that cardinal, represented fertility. It represented how fertile he was, and it was a sign to his mate to know that he was good for producing. And it's like, God was answering all of our prayers, He was really making it known to us that this was a step in the right direction. And even though it may have not ended in physical fertility, it's definitely ended in a new state of being and a new state of mind.
After we decided finally we're going to go with Dr. Alvarez, you know, I contacted my family after I already had my surgery date and I was approved, you know, qualified.
They were very supportive and receptive of it because they knew that she had been fighting with everything in her to be the best person she could be, and had, you know, traveling and going on the tours and getting on the planes and just the constant tearing down of her body while it was tearing down itself. You know, they saw it all happening, so they were very receptive of that. And even same situation with DeForest, you know, because they had been on the road with her the most. They seen some of the things she went through on the road. They seen her unable to eat. They watched her go on the different diet plans and saw that there were no results, you know, that she was getting bigger. And even our video, it kind of portrayed it, you know what I mean? The journey is portrayed even through video, you know, just how it just was no relief.
She really was sick. She really was in danger. Her life really was in danger. Wow. And, you know, and it's like, and I was sitting there while she was in danger. It was like everybody just kind of snapped into it. And then it was like once that happened, we all was like, well, shoot, we'll do whatever we got to do.
My spiritual family ended up going on a fast for me, you know, that death would not come premature before I can get to surgery because my health was that bad. And then once I told the church, you know, I told them, when surgery was starting. We started building on the building literally 2 months before I went to surgery. And so everyone was like, oh my God, you know, we're rebuilding and, you know, we don't know if, because, you know, you could die in surgeries like that. I'm going to Mexico, everyone's scared. So I told them I had to start a pre-op fast, which was a liquid fast, and the entire church said, we're going on it with you. And I just cried. Like, I couldn't believe it when I got home. I thought, oh my God, because my church already was going through a really difficult process with different, you know, leaders were falling away, falling into sin. And so we had been through something, you know, together already.
We were moving into this new space and it was all God. You know, I knew it was God. I knew I was where God wanted me to be, but I was also dealing with the fact that my husband, you know, left God. He left the church. And, you know, I was kind of like having to cope with all of that during that time frame. Taking the sledgehammer and knocking the wall down in the natural for me was a way of telling myself and telling the enemy, and also exemplifying to the church that I wasn't backing down.
But to see them say, you know, we're gonna go on this with you. We're gonna the entire time, because there was like a pre-op fast, you know, because I had to get a certain amount of weight down before I could even get the surgery because I was that obese. And then once I got the surgery, there's a continued eating path. And then now, you know, my stomach is smaller. So I'm like, you guys are gonna go on this fast with me, you know? And I just couldn't believe it, you know. So when I started eating, you know, I'd take my protein shakes and vegetable soup. Everybody was going to the building, you know, tearing down walls, and they're eating soup, and we're all drinking protein shakes, and it probably looked weird as crap, you know what I'm saying? But they were like, we're gonna fight with you, you know. And as God does a work in you and as God heals you, he's gonna heal us.
We're waiting on the apostles to get here. So this is our practice run.
From the dust until dawn, yeah, I survived because I got sweet victory. Nobody can take it from me. Sweet victory. Cause I got sweet victory. I have thorns where my crown was. I'll be weak, but I'm alive from the dust until...
Okay.
preparing for surgery, got on the plane, headed to Eagle Pass, Texas, you know, to wait to be picked up from the hospital, the hospital in Mexico to pick me up and then drive us across the border, of course.
How you feeling? You seen the van?
Yeah.
What do you think?
That it's gonna happen. Ain't no stopping it.
We're almost in Texas and things were becoming extremely real for us.
I was scared. I was really like petrified. I know King Lady's tough, but I don't like pain. I do not, you know, splinters, they hurt, you know. Got ready to, prepared to actually roll to the back original, you know, to go in there and put on all the stuff, got all the pre-operation stuff done. And I remember being in the room and, you know, people just posting, you know, we have, you know, awesome app called Church Snaps. Just, you know, letting, you know, everybody know on Church Snaps for every second, you know, what was going on, you know, and just feeling like, oh God, like what if this is what I kept hearing, I'm gonna die, you know. And I felt like this was something I had to do, and I had to be brave, because I felt like if this works, you know, and I'm an intercessor and I'm believing God for my church to get renewed, then if I pull through this, then they're gonna pull through this.
Watching her be sedated in her last few moments, you know, aware of herself before going into surgery was, it kind of rendered me helpless. And I've never felt so helpless in my life. That the person that I took a vow to protect and to love and to defend, that at that moment I was trusting her in somebody else's hands. And I had to reassure myself that I was trusting her in God's hands, even though these doctors were there and these nurses were there. But it was a very real moment of how much trust I needed to have for her.
He was trying to be strong for me, but, you know, I was scared, he was scared, you know. My two daughters, they were scared, you know, and everyone was trying to be hopeful. And I just remember having a song, you know, that was in my spirit. And, you know, I just kept hearing, you know, this song, Ever Be. Your praise shall ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. And that's all I kept singing, you know, over and over again inside myself, like, if I die, I'm gonna die praising you. And if I go under and I don't come up, Lord, was I pleasing in your sight?
I love you.
As soon as I opened my eyes, I remember hearing the same song as I woke up my eyes, as if, you know, I had just started singing. And I remember saying, is it over? Is it done? Because it seemed like it took 5 minutes.
The road to recovery was slow. You know, she couldn't do that many strenuous things. Even though we were right in the middle of rebuilding our church, she was limited to what she could do.
The changes had already been made beforehand when I was, you know, trying to get the weight off. So I thank God for that. So after surgery, it wasn't that difficult for us to kind of pick up where we were going, because we were trying to get the weight off so long. My husband's had to make a lot of adjustments because he loves to eat.
The biggest thing was being able to cope mentally with the change. And that was, you know, oftentimes, you know, you fellowship around food, you know, and food had to no longer become the center of attention. You know, it couldn't be the central focus of fellowship because she couldn't really eat it like that.
After surgery, you know, about 3 months where you still, you're still pretty much on a liquid diet. So the church was losing a lot of weight. Everybody in the church was liking how they were looking because they were, of course their metabolism was fine. They were looking good, especially my godson who lives with us, my godson, AJ. And, he went really strict with it on me, and it's my baby. And he's everybody's baby. But he lost 115 pounds or so. Yeah, so, and he's kept the weight off. Wow. So it's been a year and about 4 months since, post-op surgery. And I've lost a total of 100 and now 43 pounds. And he's lost about close to that. And he was really, really sad, depressed, overweight, hating himself as a teenage boy. And he's looking good now.
Well, personally, like I said, her journey has definitely provoked me to see things a different way. At this point, every symptom she had is pretty much gone. The diabetes is gone. The high blood pressure is gone. The pitting edema is gone. The hypertension is gone. The insulin resistance is gone. So her bill of health is cleaned up dramatically, in just a year's time. And her body has followed that same pattern, it's definitely transformed from when she first had the surgery.
More than anything in the world is the will of God that you're healthy and you're well. And the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And his purpose is to take us out before our time so that we can't fulfill the purposes as to why we were sent on this earth. And the enemy wants you to die and not live. The enemy wants you to, not be fertile, not produce things by the Spirit, not manifest things, in God. And you have to know that that's not God's plan for you. I say it all the time. His plans for us is to prosper us and to give us an expected end. He won't promise that everything will be perfect. But if we can do everything that we can to keep our temples in a place where they're healthy and they're thriving, then we can be around that much more, and we can be around that much longer. And just beware of the enemy. Beware of the enemy, because he exposes himself through the environment, through the way we carry ourselves, the way we eat. Just be more conscious of the products that we use, and just be conscientious of your health, because it's so important. We got to stick around here. We can't lose another pastor. We can't lose the next author or the next artist or the next dancer. You have to be to be healthy and well and whole, because even in that we have less opportunity of demonic forces being able to oppress and possess us. And to the women in the church and the husbands in the church that are struggling with infertility, I do know your pain, and I want you to know that there's a plan, and whatever God is doing in that plan, he's going to reveal it. And nobody understands how you feel but the ones that have probably gone on, like Sarah, who didn't have a baby until she was well old in her age, or Hannah. But there are others in the body of Christ that are struggling with infertility and wanting to have a baby. And I just want to share this one scripture with you. It said, many are the children of desolate than that of the womb, and we got to believe all the way to the end and trust God and to know that there's a plan, but don't be discouraged, and, keep your head up. And all of those who are struggling with morbid obesity, you do what's best for you. You pray and you seek the Lord and you move upon his voice. And don't let anything stop you from being healthy. And God wants us to live. It's vitality. It's about being healthy, whole, and having vitality.
Forget the former things, do not dwell on the past, for I have redeemed you. Forget the former things, for I am doing